and wild racetrack, pretty slippery. So we didn't quite get down to those lap record times, but Bryony, the conditions are perfect for fast times today. So very, very exciting.
Exactly. I've got my morning coffee.
Yeah, I think you need
several
that.
That we're going to have across the weekend. Fastest yesterday, Cam Waters and Will Davison from Tickford Racing in the final practice session.
Yeah, and in the first practice session too. So really strong day for Tickford. All four of their cars looked to be on the pace pretty quick. So this one in particular, quickest in that first session, quickest in the third session. They ran the thing completely dry of fuel and it stopped on the in-lap. So very, very quick. But while we're also here, we might as well duck in and check out the other car as well, because for the second straight year, James Moffat topped the opening co-driver practice session as well. And it feels like all the attention has been on car 6, Bryony, but just going about their business nicely is the Supercheap Auto Mustang. They led a lot of laps last year. Of course, that was Chaz Mostert with James Moffat last year, but Jack LeBrock's speed's been pretty quick so far this year as well, so do not write this car off either.
No, absolutely, and really impressive from James Moffat, because when was the last time he was in a supercar?
Yeah.
I think it was at the test day.
He would have had a couple of laps back at the bend back then.
Yeah.
A lot of these drivers haven't even driven so far this year. I think Warren Luff hasn't driven a car since last year. So really, really difficult for these co-drivers to get in, be up to speed instantly in the way they were. We did see some different names popping up towards the front of the list as well. Andre Heimgartner was one of those. He and Dylan O'Keefe looked pretty strong yesterday. So really, really exciting sessions. There wasn't too much drama, or there wasn't any major incidents, but there were certainly a couple minor ones that managed to catch our eye throughout the day.
And speaking of,
perfectly.
Here we go.
Perfectly timed.
Obviously, there was an incident between Shane Van Gisbergen in the 97 and Tim Slade, co-driving with Scott McLaughlin in the 17. Slade did come out and say afterwards it was probably his fault. He put his hand up and said, yeah, my bad, I didn't look in my mirrors.
Yep.
But yes, it was an interesting start. That was the first practice session yesterday.
I think this goes exactly to what we're talking about yesterday, Bryony, which was the fact that these drivers, or a second ago, these drivers haven't had a huge amount of time in the cars yet to come up to speed with being back in a supercar, and Tim's so busy looking at the road ahead that he didn't have a chance to look in the mirrors. So Shane Van Gisbergen just gave him that tap, gave him a bit of a wave on the way through. It was completely unintentional from both parties. And Shane, in his interview, was actually quite good afterwards, saying, you know, Tim hasn't driven these cars for a while. He's coming up to speed. I understand. And then Tim put his hand up and said, yeah, that one's on me.
The only thing it did, though, was lose a little bit of time for the car 97 in that practice session.
Yep.
As did an incident with car 888, Craig Lowndes behind the wheel.
Not as much time lost as this car had. They lost the better part of half a session yesterday with a very unusual power steering issue. We're not used to seeing these cars have these levels of issues, and what it did cause was a small fire when all that oil got onto the hot stuff, and up it went. So, Craig was...
At Craig in the car, and this is when it happened yesterday. So he's sitting there, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey!
Well, get out, get out.
Get out.
It's not that the fire was that big, it was more the fact that the extinguishers are going off and you really don't want to breathe that stuff in. It's pretty nasty. So Craig was out of there in a hurry, typically with a smile on his face, but they did lose a little bit of time in that session. They were able to put Craig in the car for the third session and get some laps in. Jamie, on his hot lap on a green set of tyres, made a mistake down to the last corner, so didn't get his best lap time in. So he's 16th in the session, but not a complete form guide to where this car really is. They looked reasonably strong despite the time that they lost yesterday.
Yeah. All right, as we take a walk back down pit lane, big day here, and it's not just for supercars. Chad, you're covering a lot of the support category billing here. What are we expecting today?
We're really cool that we've got round 3 of Super 2 and Super 3 on the support bill as well. So a couple of practice sessions for them yesterday, a few different names towards the top. We had a red flag when Jay Robotham, one of the Super 3, I say kids, he's only 17 years of age, youngest in the field, had a crash up at Skyline. So we didn't get too many green tyre runs in there in what would be a qualifying simulation. So we don't really know the form guide is the short answer of that heading into today. But there's also some pretty other cool stuff getting around. We've got the Toyota Gazoo Racing Australia 86 Series, formerly known as the 86 Series. They're going to have 4 races this weekend, which is pretty cool, so qualifying for them. The Tin Tops, which have been a lot of fun up at Townsville. It's the run what you brung category, so there's lots of cars there getting around.
G'day.
And also we've got...
Just saying hello to the Penrite Racing team who are practicing their driver changes.
There we go, perfect timing.
It's perfect timing.
So that was Dave Reynolds getting out, Will Brown getting in, new combination for this year, although Will's been a part of this team now for a while as part of their junior academy. Brody Kostecki saluting at the back. Reasonably okay day for these guys yesterday, uneventful.
Yeah, seemed pretty smooth there. I think Al McVeigh, who's back in the garage, good to have him here. Pretty happy with that one, and we'll see a lot of this weekend is driver change practice happening, because as we've mentioned, these co-drivers not only have not had a lot of seat time, well, literally, they haven't had a lot of seat time, both on the track, but also practicing these co-drivers pit stops.
Yeah, well, the practice sessions yesterday were just as important for the crews as they were for the drivers, because not only is it those important driver changes that you need to practice, but also brake rotor changes. So a lot of brake rotor changes, particularly 888. Felt like every time that car came into pit lane, they were changing the front brakes on it. But not just that, there's also refueling practice as well. So the Erebus team didn't practice their refueling yesterday. There will be some more chances this weekend to practice that, because remember, it's only been tyre stops this year, so we haven't had refueling since Adelaide.
Okay.
Speaking of pit stops.
Speaking of pit stops, the first competition of the weekend happened yesterday. It was the Paddock Pit Stop Challenge, the finals.
Yeah.
We have
How exciting was this?
It was so good.
Yeah. We had a draw in the semi-final, which was pretty exciting, but Brad Jones Racing, every single year they have made the semi-finals or the final. Once again, it was them versus the Shell V-Power Racing team. You know, only 2 teams have made the finals of the Paddock Pit Stop Challenge. BJR and DGR Team Penske. So they're clearly a cut above the rest when it comes to the Pit Stop Challenge. And have a look at this, Bryony. Is this not one of the coolest trophies you can find in motorsport? I love this. Well done.
The golden rattle gun.
Yep.
It's really heavy. I'm not even going to try and lift it up. But I think what Brad Jones would like even more was the $20,000 check that came along with.
I think the mechanics like that as well, because I'm pretty sure that goes into the Christmas fund. So well done to the crew down at BJR, and that's going to put them in pretty good stead. And remember, that was qualifying throughout the entire year. Every little pit stop matters when it comes to winning that trophy and getting into that final. And the celebration, it was like they just won the Bathurst 1000, let alone the Pit Stop Challenge. So you can tell how much it means to them. I think they really enjoy going head-to-head with the might of DJR Team Penske. The boys from Albury getting the job done against the big fellas down the end of pit lane. And that was a good vibe going on down here in pit lane for that last night.
Absolutely. Well, as we mentioned at the start, it's qualifying day, go fast day.
Yep.
We have a couple of practice sessions before then.
Yes.
Qualifying is at about 5?
About 4-ish, later in the day.
So it's really going to be interesting to see how the weather affects qualifying.
Just on that as well, because we've got some more inclement weather coming later in the weekend, the officials have made the very difficult decision to move the race time forward by half an hour. So 11 o'clock local time here at Bathurst, the race will kick off on Sunday. And the reason being, if we do get a wet race, it's going to be a slow one.
Yeah,
so if you go back to the year 2000 when it was really, really wet, that was 7.5 hours. Last year's race was 6 hours 23, I think. So it can really change the duration of the race. And if that happens, it could go so long that it gets dark. So darkness is the only thing that'll stop this race. Bathurst does not go time certain, but it can be stopped if it gets too dark. So difficult decision. Yeah,
exactly. Well, you can catch all the action live on Fox Sports 506 coming up very soon. And of course, Channel 10 join us today as well.
Yeah, from about midday onwards. So the final practice session and Armour All qualifying live on Channel 10, plus the support category. So plenty of ways to stay in with the action today.
Absolutely. Going to be a cracker day, Chad. Can't wait to get into it. We look forward to seeing you a little later on. Bye.
Want to go fast.